Let's get streaming.
Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. So Alicia's been having streaming issues, and yeah, like 2 minutes before we even came on, she was having streaming issues, and it looks like she's having them again now. So I guess I'll start. I'll talk for now until she comes back on and whatnot. But so I'm Art, or I'm Jack. My real name. I'm Jack Beers, and Alicia is the host, and we're here to talk about the Orville season 3, episodes 6 and 7, which are Twice in a Lifetime and From Unknown Graves. We skipped last week, so we're going to do both of them this week. Hey, Chloe. Yeah, she's having issues, so she'll be back. Internet issues, so she'll be back. Well, I'll go ahead and start off with with the episode that the first episode that we need to cover, which is Twice in a Lifetime. And it starts off in a party. I know this has been a good season. This has been a
Yes.
great.
Hi, everybody.
There she is. I covered you for a minute.
Yes, you did. I could hear you backstage. So thank you, darling. So
Hmm.
yes, everybody knows me. I'm AVP. You know my fiance Jack. So yes, we did skip last week. So we are back this week reviewing two episodes, like Jack said, Twice in a Lifetime and From Unknown Graves. So yeah, this season is definitely getting better from the previous two seasons. So this one, actually, we get to see Gordon performing on the guitar. Now, we normally sing him vocally, just vocally. So for him to play on the guitar was a nice, nice treat. That was a very nice treat for him to sing that song that he had sang with Laura from Lasting Impressions, basically. So that was a nice treat.
Right. And
So they're
that's how
all
it started with
crowded
the
in.
party.
Yes, it looks like they're in Gordon's quarters, maybe,
Well,
or a
he
quarters.
does he does say something like, "I'm glad I get to host parties because I get to drink and I don't have to go nowhere." So I think that's his quarters.
It could be, but a lot of people were crowded into that room. So obviously, this was filmed, I think, before a COVID situation because
Probably.
Unc is in the room, Yafet's in the room.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, they're all in there
Uh,
listening to him
Ta-
sing that song.
Tala and Lamar are in the room, and they're s- at that point. I mean, they're not together yet, but they're definitely enjoying each other's company.
Right, they're teasing it a little bit to say, okay, will they or will they not be a
Right.
couple? But and we also get to see a selfie done with Bordis,
Trying to smile.
Charlie and Gordon, which is like a fake little Border smile, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was funny.
So it's kind of crazy that Aronoff device that showed up in Old Wounds
The banana
shows
ray,
up again.
the anti-banana ray.
Exactly. It shows up again. It shows up again. It makes an appearance again. So they're supposed to destroy it in a way because, but before
Well,
they can destroy it, Gordon
well,
does a little thing which
well,
was funny.
well. They don't want to destroy it. They want to send it to a scientific research facility, is what it was.
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Exactly.
yeah, and so that's when Gordon does the funny thing.
Says, I want an egg salad sandwich.
He was supposed to have lunch with Lamar, but Lamar like stayed up and worked and lost track of time. So Gordon comes in and is
Yes, hang
like,
on with it.
"Well, I'm still hungry." So he goes to the replicator and he makes himself a egg salad sandwich, and he's about to eat it, but then Lamar takes it for an experiment, and he says that he's going to send this sandwich past into the past 5 seconds into the past, and right when he says it, the sandwich shows up, and suddenly there's two sandwiches. So Gordon picks up that sandwich, and Lamar drops the other sandwich, and then sends it back in time. And he was like, "Why?" And so Gordon's like, "Why didn't you just keep the other one? You would have had two sandwiches." And then Isaac explains that without if Lamar didn't complete it, there would have been a temporal paradox. Blah 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 blah. So so the idea is they're going to take this anti-banana ray, the Asimov machine, and it's a time traveling thing, and they're going to take it to this scientific facility so that it can be further researched. They figured it'd be safer
Cor-
in the research facility than it would be on a Union ship. So they send. So they
Correct. The name of the place is Salbit 3. That's the name. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
That's
darling.
fine.
But yeah.
They send a convoy to the. So Orville's not alone. They send a convoy to this research
Correct.
facility, just in case Kalon come. But when they get to the research
Exactly.
facility, it's been destroyed.
Mm-hmm. But it was show. But the thing is, it's ironic that you mentioned about the Kalons. The Kalons show up just at that moment too.
Yeah, they somehow knew about this machine, and
Mm-hmm.
they went to the research facility, destroyed it, and then waited to ambush the convoy.
Mm-hmm.
So they now there's something that they have to do. Oh no! At this point is when they start deciding that they're going to destroy the machine rather than give it to the Kalon, because
Right.
the Kalon want
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And Tala's temporarily injured in her shoulder when she's on the bridge and
Yeah,
everything
she
too, as
hurts her
well.
shoulder. Yeah, uh, during the attack,
And
and so
and
because
Gordon basically goes into the hallway because he says he's going to go destroy this
right,
device.
because Tala was supposed to do it, but then she got injured, and so Gordon steps up and says, "I'll do it," and he runs to the thing, and he's got his phaser, and he's about to destroy it,
Right.
but then
And
the
just before
thing
he does
happened.
that, he disappears. Basically, we're like, "Where's Gordon?" I mean, you just have this big empty room, and everybody's like, "Well, where's Gordon? Where's
I mean,
Mister?
there was,
Lieutenant
I mean,
Lloyd?"
you see what happens to him. He's about to shoot it, and then the ray goes
Right.
off, the Asmon machine goes off, and
Mm-hmm.
he's he's like he falls back, but then like there's like a bunch of him that comes up,
Right.
and then
It's like he's doing it in slow motion almost. The way it
right.
looks, the way it is, because it happens so slowly. It's like,
So so he's missing. He's gone, and they don't know where he is at.
mm-hmm. Exactly. But the thing is, and then they receive that there's a message. Oh, but it's an audio message. It's an old-fashioned one, similar to when they were contacting one of these people on another planet that only had the audio. I think it was on Primal Urges that they only had the audio kind of thing. So that's the only way that they can contact them is through audio. But this is an old audio recording from 2015, and it's from Gordon.
Hmm.
And he's in trouble. He needs help.
He's
And he's
he's
saying, "Hey, I'm stuck, guys. Help me
he's stuck.
out."
He's stuck in
Basically,
2015, and yeah, he's hoping that they get the message, and then that they come for him.
thanks, Bone. Good to see you. But the thing is, when they start tracking it a little bit further on the computer database on the ship, they find out that Gordon died
Hmm.
in 2068. as a commercial pilot, and he was in California of all places. He was there, and he had married this woman Laura, which we remember from Lasting Impressions.
Hmm.
He also had a son named Edward,
After Ed.
and he wants a lot, obviously after Ed. And there's obviously they don't want flowers and stuff like that, but they want donations into a cat sanctuary place,
Right.
which I think is a subtle
That's
reference when he said he wanted that bridge cat. So maybe it's something like that. That's the only thing
so
I can
yeah,
figure.
that's in. So they found that in Gordon's obituary, which is somehow in the database now that he had been sent to the past. Um,
Correct.
and so that's how they find out what happened to Gordon. So
Hmm.
so the idea at first they're like, well, if he's already dead, then we've already failed. And then they were like, well, no, time travel's tricky, blah 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 blah. So they decided to go back and get him.
Right, and using the Dysonium and also with the Aronoff device, similar to what the way they did with Kelly in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and the Road Not Taken, basically similar to with that kind of thing.
The problem is they do not have enough Dysonium to go exactly to 2015.
Exactly. Instead, they end up in 2025, so
Yeah.
they
So
missed the mark by 10 years.
yes. And so like they're there, so they decide to go down and find Scott. I mean Gordon.
Right,
And
Gordon. But the four people that go are Ed, Kelly, Charlie goes, and Isaac goes.
right. Now and then they split up, and then there's like a double plot thing going on with Isaac and Charlie. I will first of all like how Ed was like, how is Isaac gonna go down to Earth, and then you see him like with the device that they had from the first season, and he turns himself into Mark Jackson, and
Exactly. He's the Mark Jackson that was when we first see him in Gently Fallen Rain, basically.
mhm,
So he looks like that again, basically. And
yeah,
he's dressed very, very similar, but he's got the button up shirt that he wore and everything like that. So, yes. And Charlie, instead of having her hair in her usual ponytail, she has it hanging down. She has like a biker jacket on of sorts and
right.
jeans. And Ed and Kelly look like Kelly, obviously.
And their job
And
is to find Dysonium, a Dysonium deposit,
correct.
and mine it so that they can go back to their own time. And
Correct.
so Isaac was like, there's a deposit like 5 kilometers away or something like that. I was like, Kelly or Charlie's like, we need to get transportation then. And so there's a biker bar nearby, so they go to the biker bar. And as soon as they walk, I mean,
Yes.
it's classic biker bar scene. As soon as they walk in, everyone stops and looks
Yes.
at them like in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and you know, um, so
Hmm.
so
That kind of stuff. I mean, and
so Charlie goes and
yes, Charlie makes a bet saying, "Oh,
so the
I bet you something." They're like, "Oh, what's that, little lady?"
and they're like, okay, I
So
bet
the
you,
bet is that if this guy wins this arm wrestling contest, we get your bikes. If we lose, you can do whatever you want,
yeah,
so to speak.
the exact choices
If I remember
or
correctly,
the
that was the
exact words
terms of
was,
it.
if we lose, you choose, with the implication that if we lose, you can have sex with me. so so then they go
Basically,
so the,
basically.
so then right before that happened, like right before they do the arm wrestling thing. But by the way, like the guy that they choose is like the biggest guy in the bar, the biggest arms and shit, right? And you know, Isaac Mark
The
Jackson,
brawniest guy, big
he's very scrawny,
tattoos. Yep.
like no muscle at all, right? So I mean, like no, I mean, like if he
Yeah,
was
priest
Kalon,
Rogers before Captain America, basically.
yeah. So thank goodness he was a Kalon, or else Charlie would have had to do a lot of extra stuff that day. But so like I
True,
like
because he looks like a scrawny
I like how she's like make it look realistic. And he goes, I affirmative, ensign. And she's like, don't call me ensign. And then and so they start arm wrestling. And
Yes, exactly.
at first it looks like Isaac is losing
Mm,
because like he's trying to make it look realistic, and he's almost about to lose, and then Charlie's like giving him the eyes, like, okay, now it's time to win, and he's like, oh no,
like,
I
come
am losing.
on, get it together, Isaac. Like, we want to.
He's like, oh no, I am losing, and then suddenly he's just like, do
Mm-hmm.
do 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 do, boom, and he beats this guy, right? So he beats the guy,
Yes, and all the
and
other bikers are
they
like,
get the bikes,
"Oh crap!"
and they get their bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I'll let you talk about
Yep.
Kelly and Edward, what they're doing.
So Ed and Kelly are looking for Gordon, and they go to the nearest hangar bay airport, and we see this jet fly through. And Gordon's talking to one of his flight crew. I believe he's probably his co-pilot because it looks like a very private jet and everything like that. And as soon as he gets off the flight deck and everything like that, there's Ed and Kelly waiting for him.
Right, and
He's like,
he gives
"Oh,
this crazy like,
oh my
oh my
God,
god,
what are
you're
you
here.
doing here?"
Whoa. He was tripping out that they were
10
there.
years later, he's like, and they're like, and he's like, well, and he's like, you showed up 10 years later. And they're like, we know, we're sorry.
Right.
And
And he was
he
like,
takes him back to his place. But the thing is, he's got this
well,
car. The
while they're
car's got the coolest license plate.
true. Yeah. Now go ahead and talk about the
So his license plate is not Orville, it's Oviller.
right. Because
It's Orville without the R, basically.
somebody had already taken Orville with the R. So best he can do was Oville. But so Ed and Kelly are like, so now that we got you, like we can go back. But you're going to be charged with stuff because you didn't hide out or whatnot, right? And so he's like,
Right.
for a drive. And so that's when you see the Avis car, and like they have a little bit of chat about like how he's been doing, how he's been holding up. And then Ed tries to like castigate Gordon a little bit. It's like, you're a union officer, what are you thinking? And he's like, I get it. But before we finish, I got to show you something. And then they get to the house. It's a nice house. He's got a nice house, and he's like, I'm not going back.
A beautiful house. Is, yes.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going back, and well, this
Yes.
is
He
why.
married Laura. He says, meet my wife, Laura, and my son, Edward. And you see this slight smile, but not complete smile from Ed, like, oh, you didn't forget me, so you named your child after me. But
Like,
also, Laura, she's very obviously pregnant.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, Ed. Yeah, he has this like mix. He's got he know I like he knows how to mix his emotions, Seth MacFarlane, because it's like his eyes look dreadful, like he's got the eyes his eyes look dreadful, like, oh shit, but then like he's smiling at the same time. So I think it's almost like his
Hmm.
eyes are betraying what he's trying to show off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's something I thought I noticed.
Exactly. I think so. I think so. And
And dinner,
so we have a dinner scene with Ed and Kelly and Gordon and them at their dinner table, basically. And they explain how they fell in love with each other. So apparently, Gordon was fended for himself for quite a while, but also poor Ed and Kelly do not know about the Boston Red Sox because she says,
must
"Oh,
be a
are you
Sox fan.
Sox fans?"
And
And
they're
Kelly's
like,
like,
yeah, we like
and she's like,
socks.
"Yes, of course,
Yeah,
we're very fond of Sox."
yeah, socks are great. They're great for your feet when it's cold. Yeah,
And you just see Gordon stabbing his fork into the plate, like, "You're on your own, guys. You're on your own. You're on your own. I'm not going to help you out. You're on your own, guys."
yeah. And I like that. I like that scene. And then, but then afterwards comes a more serious scene where, after dinner, they go.
Right.
Ed, Kelly, and Gordon go into a room alone, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, Ed starts trying to like castigate him again, like like try to give him a little bit of an ass chewing for what he's been doing, and Gordon just says, "Shut up."
Right.
And they're like, "What, Lieutenant?" He's like, "No, I'm not your lieutenant. I'm not your pilot. You know, I've been I've been
I'm not
here."
your puppet. I'm not. I'm done with you. I'm done. I'm done. You guys showed up
Yeah,
10 years too late. I'm
yeah.
done.
He was like,
Bye.
yeah, he was like, "You guys," he's like, you called for help." It was like, "Yeah, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I wanted help. Now, no, you guys took too long."
Exactly. Exactly. And meanwhile, Lamar and Tala have gotten a message back on the saying, "Hey, we need this Dysonium. What's the update? What's going on?" And along the way, we see a kiss scene between Lamar and
Well,
Tala in the
I
back
mean,
of this.
before you got to lead up to it though. You can't just be like, "There's a kiss scene." It's like you got to talk about like the massage. You know, like,
Sure.
"Oh, I got a cramp in my." It's like, "Oh, have
That
you ever
was
had a
funny.
Chilean
See,
massage you?"
see, that's why I have you around to do that. That's why I have you around to do that, Vargas.
It's like, yeah, it's like
See, that's
she got, and he's like, she's trying to, she's getting at him. Apparently, she's like the best masseuse ever, and he's making so much noise up. They're upstairs in the engine room, right? They're making so
right.
much
The
noise that the
engineer room.
people up down there are like, "Are they fucking?" Because
Because
there's
it
no,
sounds like it. It really does. It really does sound like it because it's very suggestive, those sounds he's making.
and then like right after that, the next scene you see, they're making out.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
which
Exactly.
they had been hinting at since the episode with the western.
So that was the previous episode, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly. Let me double check my notes.
yeah. So
Let's see. That was no, not the Tale of Two Topaz. It was the one before that one. So it was Gently Falling Rain. So that was
okay,
episode 4.
yeah. So yeah, that's when they first uh, laid seeds down, like that. There's going to be some sort of relationship
Mm-hmm.
probably, and then
Mm-hmm.
early in this episode they were hanging out together at the party, and now they're making out. So yeah, they're good now.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can sort of tell there could be a couple. But now back to Ed and Kelly and stuff. So they said they're going, we're gonna have to get him back. How are we gonna do it? So they leave. They leave Gordon's place with Laura. And meanwhile, Isaac and Charlie have figured out they found the where the Dysonium is. It's beneath the surface of this residential neighborhood houses and stuff.
Right, and there's an empty
And
house that's for
they're
sale.
posing as so he's also meanwhile been trying to make conversation with her off and on, saying what you like, what kind of music do you like, what kind of things do you like to do? And she's like, why are you asking me all these questions? Leave me alone.
Right.
And now they're just and now they're trying to put on a front in front of a real estate agent saying we're
Hmm.
a couple. Because at the biker bar they were saying that they were brother and sister. Now they're
Hmm.
putting on another front saying that they're married. They're like newly married kind of thing. And they're looking for their dream home, so to speak.
Hmm. Pretty
And
much.
they're looking for the home and they go into the basement where the Dysonium is below the garage area, basically.
And they tell the real estate
And
agent, "Can you give us a minute to talk?" And then they do the drilling.
right, exactly. They're trying to make. He's still trying to make conversation with her during this, but she's like, "Isaac, leave me alone." Basically,
Yes.
stop. Leave
Yeah,
me
she has no
enough.
interest in conversing with him, but they end up conversing a little bit anyway. And
But we also find out about her friend Amanda.
he
So
thinks,
Amanda was not just a
well,
friend.
yeah, I was going to. Okay, sorry about that.
So Amanda was actually somebody she wanted to get involved with it. And she feels like Isaac stole that chance away from her because she never got to tell Amanda how she felt.
Hmm.
And she's like, "Well, you took away that chance from me, and now she'll never know, and I'll never know how she felt about me too. So
Right,
I hate you, basically." Even
right,
though he's trying to say, "Thank you for saving my life," and she's like, "Leave me alone.
right.
I don't want to hear it."
He's trying to thank her for that, and he doesn't. Yeah, you're right. She doesn't want to hear it, and then she gives him that monologue about how she was in love with her friend.
Right. Exactly. So
Then
after
they
they get
walk
the
out.
Dysonium, well, as they're walking out, they tell the real estate agent, "We're finished. He and I are done." Basically, she's basically saying she broke off with him.
We just broke up. Yeah. She's like, so is it gonna be a forever home for you guys? Is like, no, we've just broke up. And then they just walk
We
out.
just broke up. And because one walks out and the other, yeah, they just leave.
Yeah, that was it.
So Ed and Kelly. So Gordon's talking to Laura, and he tells her the truth about who he really is. That he's actually from the future. And she's like, I kind of figured there was something different about you because is the thing that tipped me off is because they allude to the pandemic that we went through in 2020. And apparently, because he knew how things turned out for them. Hey, Jedi, actually, good to see you. So, with that alluded to 2020 kind of thing, she said, I knew something was different about you because you stayed calm despite all this chaos that was going all around you. You kept reassuring me that things are going to get better. You stayed cool under the pressure, basically. You didn't let it get to you and everything. So that's what happened with. And he said, well, I'm not going to go back with them. You're what matters to me. I've got a life with you and Edward and our future child.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, someone's knocking at the door.
Hmm.
It's not Ed and Kelly, but they got the muscle. That's Tala.
Hmm.
Tala's there, and she's like, "You're coming with us." And he's like, "Wait a minute, can't I?" And Laura. That's when Laura interferes. She speaks up and she says, "Wait a minute, isn't there a way where we can come too? Me and Edward as well?" And Gordon's like, "Yeah." Can't because I'm not going back with you on my own. I'm not going back on my own. I'm not going back on my own. I don't care what you do. I'm not. And he's like, "That's an order, Lieutenant." And he's like, "I'm not going back." He's
And
refused to
so
go back no matter what.
and so Gordon pulls out his phaser because he did say that his phaser. He brought his phaser. He had his phaser in his hand when he went back in time, and he used that phaser to hunt for food, to kill animals for food. He actually, like while he was having that conversation, he actually felt really guilty about that. Apparently,
Right,
in the 25th century, it's illegal to kill animals for sport or hunting because you have replicators now. You can just replicate it. Um,
mm-hmm.
whereas in this 2015, this century, whatever. Well, we still do it. So he felt really bad about that. And then he also said that because the way union law works, I would probably be charged with killing animals too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And basically, they're telling him, you're going to have to come with us. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. I mean, because they've gotten the word that they've got the Dysonium because Charlie and Isaac are back on the ship now. They've
Well,
made the
well,
necessary
well, hold
repairs.
on.
Hmm.
So yeah, he pulls out the phaser, and they're like, "Are you gonna kill us?" He's like, "No, I'm just a a heavy stun will do it. But by the time you wake up, we'll be gone, and you'll never find us again." So it's either the door or the floor, he says, which I liked. Um,
Basically,
but then that's when they get news that Isaac and Charlie have picked up the Dysonium.
made the necessary repairs. Yes.
And yeah, so suddenly they have this new idea. They're like, okay, you know what? We're gonna leave you here. We're just gonna go. But we're gonna but now we're gonna go now that we got what we need, we're gonna go back in time that extra 10 years and get you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and suddenly like Gordon panics because he realizes that what's gonna happen and he's
Mm-hmm.
and like they walk out the door and he starts yelling at him from the door. He's like, Ed, Ed, and he points a phaser at it. He's about to, but he can't do it. He just can't do it. He can't bring himself to do it. So then he goes
Right.
back inside with this, and he has this really emotional, oh God, real emotional
Yes.
conversation with his family.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. With Laura, they've tucked in their son, and the way he's looking at his son is like he's never going to see him again. You can tell the way he's looking.
and he's
You can
talking
tell.
to Laura, and he says something like, "This family is stronger than time. We
Hmm.
will see each other again," or something like that.
Right. I will find you in a way, basically. He's going to find her some kind of way. He's basically reassuring her.
Yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, and then that's the end of the scene. And the next thing you see
mm-hmm.
is a shuttle craft coming into the shuttle bay, and Gordon walking out like nothing, like in uniform, all good.
So
Um,
they had to do the time jump because
yeah,
they hadn't just before that they had to do the time jump because so they did it in intervals basically. They
right.
basically went about I think 400 I think it was like 400
Well, no,
years
that's
when they're
um,
when they're coming when they're coming back. I think if I remember
like that's
correctly.
once they pick up Gordon, then it's about uh, then it's about how do we get back into the present or to the 25th
Right.
century
So
because the Asmoth machine's been destroyed. That last
right.
one destroyed the Asmoth machine. That last time
So
jump.
they had picked up Gordon. So they found a way to pick up the Gordon not right after he sent that distress signal the second time.
A
So
month
they
a
go
month after he was, yeah.
exactly
So he was, I mean,
exactly
he may have had to kill a few animals, but he's fine. There's no he did his best at that moment
right
because the first 3 years
exactly.
is when is he really did try to follow like union law, and then finally after 3 years he was like screw this.
Exactly, because apparently he was in, I don't know if it was true. Maybe he was, but they gave the impression that he was in Connecticut or something,
He start
the
he
wilderness of
started in
Connecticut.
he started in the Connecticut wilderness, and he hid in an abandoned mine cave, like an abandoned cave mine cave, whatever, for like 3 years. And he used his phaser to kill animals so that he can cook and eat them. Uh, after
Right. Now I think
after 3 years, he, knowing that he can thrive in this, and also realizing that they're not coming back for him, uh, that's when he changes his mind and he goes to Pasadena and
hmm
he finds Laura,
Laura.
and he gets a job in aviation and basically lives out his life.
Right. I mean, I think the Connecticut bit might have been a little bit of a teaser now because Seth MacFarlane is originally from Connecticut. Everybody assumes he's from California, but no, he's originally from Connecticut,
Okay,
a small town called Kent. So I think that might have been a little bit of allusion to that one, but yeah.
that's
So
possible.
but they had to do, like I said, when they're coming back with the time thing, getting back to that. So they do it in intervals. They can't do it just speed along automatically to the 25th century. They have to do it
Well,
in
well,
intervals.
in order to get back to the 25th century, um, they realize they actually don't need the azimuth machine because relativity can do it for them.
Right.
So they have,
Exactly.
I don't know,
Lamar helped
I don't remember what
out.
they call it, but it's basically that warp bubble that they have when they go quantum. Um,
Let's
all they had,
let's see.
they were like, all
Right.
we got to do is just turn it off, and
Mm-hmm.
those effects will you know those we will be able to travel through time.
Right. Exactly. And they do it in spurts. Like I said, they do it about I think the first time is like 400. I think it's like 200 years, and then they go in another spurt of another 200 years as well because they can't just go 400 directly. No, they got to do it in spurts because we see the little thing the way they do it.
Right. Yeah. So they quantum to that star, and then they quantum back to Earth. By the time it's Earth, it's 400 years, and they're back in their own time.
Right. They managed to get back to the correct time zone. So it happens, but you see, I think it's afterwards that you see Ed and Gordon somewhat talking, where you can tell things are
Ed,
a little. There's some
Ed Gordon
timidness.
and Kelly. Yeah. They're
Right.
they,
There's
it looks like they just told him everything that happened, and Gordon is just like, I can't believe I was that selfish. You and he tells them that they did the right thing, even if they feel like crap for doing it, and they're like, yeah, yeah, we still feel like crap. Um,
mm-hmm.
yeah, so and then that's basically and then they were like, hey, when was the last time we had a night where we just drank like the three of us like this? It's like, oh, it's been a long time. So
Right.
they basically end the night by drinking.
Right, exactly. But yeah, that wasn't a very emotional episode for sure. I'll say that much. Us
Mm.
watching that one. Ooh,
Yeah.
but I know it took us a while to recall. I think that one we didn't normally. So the thing is, Jack and I normally talk after we watch these episodes. This one we couldn't even talk. We couldn't even talk. We turned it in that night. Honestly, we
Well,
just
that
said,
was
"Wow, what an episode!"
like I was wondering like where this was going. Like, are they like I was wondering like are they going to write off Gordon? Like off the
That was the
show?
impression that came across. Yes, exactly,
That's what I
exactly.
was wondering is like is are they just gonna let him stay there like and then that's it?
Mm-hmm. Good question, Chloe. She says one problem they were worried about the future. If they had quote failed in their rescuing Gordon, and the future seemed to have not changed, what were they so worried about? So
Union
I think
regulations.
they were wondering the union regulations and who he'd been interacting with, wondering if he had told anyone else about what awaited them in the 25th century and other previous centuries. Kind of like in Back to the Future Part 2, where Biff has got that sports
Hmm.
almanac.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that kind of thing because if you had that kind of knowledge, it's very, very heady. And Gordon had that knowledge
Yes.
of what awaited.
But not only that, but
Fortunately, I
he
don't
was a
think.
hell of a pilot. He's one of the best pilots out there. So like as soon as an airline would like sees how he flies, I'd be fucking hire him. You know what I mean? Like
But yeah, I mean, that's the reason why it was kind of surprising that he sort of faded under the radar scope, surprisingly, even though he has this big obituary in the paper, online paper. But other than that, yeah, I think that's what they were worried about the union protocols and wondering if he would leak any of that information out because if it falls
right.
into the wrong hands, who knows what happens, basically.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
So, episode 7 from Unknown Graves. So, we just finished that one last night,
Hmm.
and
That
the way that
was
one starts out, weird.
that was like okay. So yeah, the cold opening or what cold opener or whatever is the um it's a family. It's an alien family, just like silver face, silver skinned family with red eyes, and
Hmm.
they just got this package in this huge package in the mail, right? Um, and it's or whatever, and they're like, oh, this is going to be so helpful, and they open it up, and it's a deactivated Kalon,
Right,
right?
exactly.
And this deactivated Kalon is supposed to be their new servant. And if you know the
Right.
history of the Kalon, you know this is not going to end well. So,
Hmm.
so then we go to the ship, and what's going on the ship?
Right. And it goes to Tala and Lamar, and they're obviously taking their next level.
Well, well, what you see, you don't see them yet. You see like a bed, and you see two
You see
people like
sheets.
you see two people under sheets, and they're obviously messing around. And suddenly you hear a crack, and you hear Lamar go,
And you just,
"Ow!"
ow,
And
my
then they
pelvis.
and then not his pelvis, not yet, not yet.
No, that's right. No, it was a leg. That's right. It was his leg, I think, if I remember correctly. I think it
I
was his
think this was
leg.
his arm. I think this was his arm, and then the second time
Okay.
it's the leg, and then the third time it's his pelvis,
Okay. That's right.
and a
Right,
broken
right,
rib,
right.
and then that fourth time I think it's like every bone.
Practically. Practically.
But yeah, so it's like it's like broke his arm or whatever. So she feels bad, but he goes to sick bay, and Claire's like, this is the third time you've been here. What's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm hitting the gym and the simulator too hard. And,
And she's like,
tell
could you take it easy on your program a little bit, dude?
yeah, and he was like, yeah, you're probably right. And then yeah, so he goes, yeah, he goes away, and then was the next scene Claire and Isaac having?
So the next one is where Yes, they're having a date night. And they're
Yes,
having and she was late. She
she's
was
late.
late.
Yeah, so they go to the, yeah, you're right. So she goes to the simulator. Isaac's there, but he's still in Kalon form, and he's like, "You are 11 minutes late." She's like, "I'm sorry. You know, you want to change?" And he's like, "Okay," and he changes to Mark Jackson, and
Yes.
so they sit down and they start talking, and he
And
go
she says, "Start calling me Claire, please, instead of
yes,
Dr.
she
Finn." Because he keeps calling her Dr. Finn, and she's like, "Call me Claire, please."
yeah, and he says, "Claire, okay, yes, Claire," and then he goes, "You look good. You look good enough to eat." And then she's like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, I've I've been studying human flirtation methods and realized that a lot there's a oh god, I don't
A
know, I don't
certain love thing that
it's
he
like
was a certain thing he
when
was
people
right on.
flirt, a lot of times when people flirt they basically like talk about eating, like, oh, I'm gonna, like,
It's innuendos. That's what I can put it.
yeah,
Innuendos.
like, yeah, like if she's horny, it's you can say she's thirsty, stuff like that. um
Right.
Yeah, so he does that. So he's like, "You look good enough to," and he's trying to like talk to her, and she's like, I mean, they're having a good time, but it is one of those things where like she's like, "Could you just not call me doctor when we're being casual like this?"
Intimate. Like, don't do
Yeah,
that. Please don't. Exactly. But it's a very kind of awkward conversation, especially at the dinner table. You
it's an
won't be
awkward
having that kind of thing at the
conversation.
dinner table. Also,
It's definitely, and it's because like let's be honest, it stems from the fact that Isaac has no feelings. Like
exactly.
he's
Exactly.
trying to find he's trying to find like the appropriate way to engage with her. Um, and he's
Hmm.
still, yeah, he's still working on it basically. um
Right.
so then
So we've got a subplot, a third subplot. So we've got the one with, like I said, we've got the Kalon, we've got Tala and Lamar, we've got Claire and Isaac. So we've got one more little subplot kind of thing, but it's not so subtle. So there's this female race that they're trying to make negotiations with, which is
mhm,
similar to the Mocklins. And they're called the Jamis, basically. And so they're basically the female versions of the Mocklins. Only they do have males, but these women are very, very, very dominant in that society.
yes,
And they're trying to make negotiations, so they come up with an idea on how to make the negotiations work.
and this is
We
where the
don't hear
comedy
what that
comes in.
plan is yet. Yes, this one, the humor was very strong with that part.
Yes, um that was that
Yeah,
was pretty cool.
Janice. Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, where it's like the
So,
shuttlecraft lands, and the door opens, and these
yes.
genesi come out. They come out, and they I like,
Janice?
they're very interesting looking species, by the way. uh and so she's greeted.
Yes, they sort of remind me of a Klingon, but they also warriors. They're obviously warrior types. Yes. Sorry,
Yes,
didn't mean to cut you off.
that's fine. And they're greeted by Kelly, Tala, Claire, and Charlie, all women. And
But
they've made, but now Kelly i- is wearing captain bars, and she refers to herself as Captain
right.
Kelly Grayson. I was about to say Clarkston for some reason. Kelly Grayson. And this is my first.
I don't
This
know.
this is my first officer, Tala. I think it is. Or was who was the first officer?
Yes, Tala Kiali, and she's in blue.
And
She's
she's
in
in blue.
blue instead
Yeah,
of her usual red.
she's in blue. She's got the commander stripes going on. Um, and then Claire is still the doctor, and I think Charlie is the chief engineer.
Chief engineer, correct.
Yeah,
She's gotten a quote an upgrade, so to speak.
yeah. So they're greeted by
And
those
so
four, and well, they have luggage, so they're like, "Oh, we need luggage, or we need someone to handle our luggage," and they're like,
we need assistance getting it removed. And then you hear Tala saying this very commanding voice, Mercer, Malloy, get in here.
and then they run in, and Ed is wearing red and ensign stripes. He's the captain of the ship, and Gordon, he's Gordon,
It's so funny.
and
It's
they
so
got
funny.
Gordon with the ensign stripe too. And so they run in all like clumsily, and they're
Yes.
like, "Yes, sir." It's like help them with their luggage. It's like, "Yes, sir," and they go into the luggage and they they pull out.
And they got all these suitcases, which is so ridiculous. It reminds
Yeah,
me of
it's just
something that happened to me.
like yeah, 10 freaking pieces of luggage, and each,
Suitcases.
they're both holding like 5 pieces of luggage, and they're very
And they can walk a certain way. And poor Ed, he can't because he says, "Let me know when you're going to turn." And they got to walk up like this little ramp, unfortunately.
stairs
So
stairs.
Ed falls. There's only two stairs, two
Yeah, there's like two
steps.
stairs, and then he gets to the end, and right before he goes off screen, he trips and falls, which is why I'm like, when they said was that on purpose, or was that like an accident that they kept in? I was like, no, that was perfect comedic timing. So
Yes, it was good. It was comedy gold there with that.
definitely, and yeah, that was a funny scene.
Oh yeah, and oh yeah, Bordis is there too because Bordis is in red too. When we see Bordis a little bit later on the bridge, because they're sitting on the bridge trying to kick back a little bit. Say, okay, that's over with, and you see Bordis and he's got red on too,
Oh yeah, so
and they're like,
Ed sits down in his chair, and then Kelly looks at Ed and he's like,
and
"What?" He's like, "What if they come into the bridge right now? Would you want to explain that?" She's like, "You're right. Everyone go to your stations." And he goes to like the
he goes
opposite.
to where Charlie normally sits.
Yeah, goes to where Charlie sits, and then everyone just starts staring at Bordis.
Exactly. You see this very awkward silence, like everyone's like,
And so Bordis
he's like,
realized, and he noticed everyone looking at him. He's like, "What is it?" He's like, "A Genesi and a Mocklin." I don't know. It's like, "Yeah, you might want to go." It's like, okay, and he gets up and leaves.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then that's when, like, shortly after that, they get something from the planet, like a signal from the planet, like a power source or something like that, or power
Right. So,
fluctuation.
and then there's one life form
Yeah, so
down there. They're noticing there's a life sign down there.
they realize there's a life sign, and they're like, "Well, I thought this was abandoned. I thought this colony was abandoned." So they're like, "Well, shit. Like, since the males don't have anything to do, like, I'll grab Bordis and Gordon, and we'll go check it out." And he brings Charlie too. Um, and then so they
Right.
fly down to the surface, and they
Right. So,
and they see a Kalon. And I'm trying to remember exactly what led up to that,
yes.
but I don't remember exactly. But they see a Kalon, and
So we get a little bit of a there's a flashback. It flashes back to the that family that we saw earlier, and he's obviously being treated as a servant at this point because he made dinner. And there's
yes,
according to 11,257 recipes that he knows how to make of different culinary things he can make in his repertoire.
hmm
And oh yeah, that I know what it was. That they found that there was a secret chamber in there in that room. That's when they found this
okay,
other
yeah,
Kalon, and they're getting ready to shoot. And this Kalon comes down and says, "Please don't shoot me." Oh, he says it almost in a human-like voice, and they're like, "What the
he said
heck?
he says, "Please don't shoot. I'm unarmed." And in my head, I was like,
Please do not hurt.
"Oh
Please do
yeah,"
not hurt me." And I'm like, "What?
but like,
What?"
but what tripped me out was like, he was like, I'm unarmed, right? And I was thinking about like head cannons. Where's his head cannons? Later on, they do say that his head cannons were removed, but so he really was unarmed. Yeah.
Right. And we're introduced to the doctor who made this happen. Her name is Dr. Vilica, and her father, Yahabu, yes, I believe. And she introduces the Kalon by the name Timus, and she explains that Timus is her late father's name, and they
Right.
basically
They
they
found
just
a
found
crashed Kalon ship.
correct. Most of them were destroyed except this one,
Hmm.
and they reprogrammed him basically to make him more
You're right, Chloe.
human-like.
I did notice that, Chloe. He did use contractions.
That's
Kalon's been known to
true.
use
That's
contractions.
good point. Very good point. Good point, Chloe. Very good point. But yes, like I said, I mean, and like I said, she's explained that there's a procedure that I did to do this, make this happen, and everything.
To
And then
give
it
this
skips back
Kalon
to this
emotions.
right. So it skips back to the ship again, and we see Ankh, Yafid. They're all sent out of engineering, and basically Charlie is going to be because she's the chief engineer now. She's got to get the cheat sheet from Lamar to make it convincing for these female alien species that she's in charge,
Mhm.
basically.
Right, right. And
And
we do
just
get
as she's
another
sending
Yaphet
him out,
moment.
I think,
Unfortunately, it's him cursing.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly, because he said, "This is BS. Why are you sending us out of the room?" And Unc is saying, "You can't." And Unc basically makes the side comment, "You can't even tell with me," kind of thing too.
right. Like you said, like the way she responded, it sounded like Unc said something like, "You can't even tell for male or female" or something like that.
Right, and they're like, "Better play safe than sorry," kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, because you don't the Unc's like you can't understand what he says like unless they you put captions and they didn't put any captions down. So
Exactly. I mean, you can only just speculate what he's saying. You can sort of pick up on this here and there. And Timnus actually meets Isaac at this
mhm.
point soon after this. And he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am Timnus. Who are you?" And they start talking, and he says, "I have these emotions and everything." And he says, "Would you want to be interested in this?" And you can tell that Isaac's like, "I really don't want to do this right now
Right.
at this point."
He's
He's like,
he's not really
"Okay."
interested. It's not. It doesn't really bother him. He's fine the way he is. He thinks.
Yeah, he says it's fine. I mean, thank you for the offer. Thanks, but no thanks, kind of thing.
And
And meanwhile, Halsey's getting an update too, and he makes a comment. Oh man, that Ed and Kelly look good in the reverse uniform
yeah,
kind
it's
of
like we might
things.
just make that permanent. He jokes.
And Ed gives him like the side eye, like, "No, don't do that, please don't."
So yeah, I remember that. I don't remember the order of these scenes for some reason, even though we just watched them last night.
Right. See, I write it down. I write it down.
I'm
Fortunately, when
trying to
I'm
remember
writing
what
my
I'm trying to
notes.
what happened right after that.
So Isaac's off. Oh, and then we find out that there's going to be a recall for these Kalon because the thing is, this one Kalon K1
They
asked
want a recall. One wants a recall,
because there's
but the head person is like no recall because that'll ruin us.
so we'll just do something like create a remote. But the thing is, this same Kalon earlier, the one that had made all these different recipes and foods and stuff, who mentions that he asked if he can go to school with one of his
Yeah,
the clients,
one of the kids asked like, "K1, you want to go to school with us?" And he's like, "Yes, I would like to go to school." And then they're like, and then the
and the
father's
father's
like,
like,
"No,
"No,
no, you're a servant. You don't
no,
go to school."
you stay here.
Yeah,
Don't question it." And so yeah, so like I said, apparently certain Kalon are starting to rebel, kind of things like that, similar. And they said,
there's
"No, we're
been
not going to."
30 something thousand complaints
Uh,
about them acting up, disobeying
right.
orders. They're becoming
So their solution is
it's because they're becoming sentient.
right. So they create these remotes for them to basically where instead you tell them to go power off and they would go into their power station to power them off. When they have these remote kind of things, they could just push the button and just power on them on and off basically.
Well, I think those were the pain things that they were talking about.
Right. But it could also do that too. It seemed like as well. It would power them off temporarily as
Like
well.
I don't know if it powered them. It just seemed like they were in such pain that they
That's
fell.
true. That's true. That's true because maybe it was. Yeah, but because Timnus is telling the story to Isaac, and he also is telling the story to Charlie as well
Right.
about what happened.
He talks to Charlie, and they do this. They do this like kind of a montage. They keep going back and forth between um, Timoth explaining what happened to Charlie, and then going back to, I think it's a flashback. I don't think it's like
Right.
some other, I think this is what actually happened to the
No.
K-1.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
and so they show, um like, the father's like, K1, help me with something out in the yard. And he's like,
And
but your
he's
wife
like,
told me to set the table. And he's like, oh, like, this will just take a minute. He's like, it'll be more efficient if I complete my task first. And then but now he's got this control that you were talking about, and he pushes it,
not yet.
well,
He gets it later. He tells him to power off basically for the rest of the night. Basically,
oh,
at
no,
that point,
no,
he doesn't have the remote yet.
that's when he gives them he gives them like tea for the evening or something like that. And then uh they're playing a game. They're playing a game, and he looks interested in the game. And they were like, "Okay, you can go now." And then they're playing the game. K1, you can go now. And K1 starts asking about the game. And then he starts asking, like, what's the purpose of my servitude? And he starts asking these questions, and they're like, he's malfunctioning.
Right.
We're gonna go to the company. Go
We're gonna
power
send him
down.
back to the company.
Go power down. Go power down. And then after that, that scene where they talk about, should we do a recall, happens.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And then instead they're like, okay, well, no recall. Instead, we're just going to make this device. I'm just going to use this as a device, and it'll hurt them.
Exactly.
It'll make them comply. And so they do.
Hmm.
And so they give, apparently, like, you don't
Right. You get the impression that that's what they did. That they gave
stop setting the
like Jack
table.
Rose. Okay, there
I'm
it is.
still here. When
Okay,
he's
good.
trying to get him to set the table, uh, to stop setting the table, and he's like, it'll be more efficient if I blah blah blah. He loses it, and he's just like, and like he falls to the ground, and
Right.
is basically forced to do uh, this thing. And then eventually
So
they
he's just
talk about. Then they go back to like Charlie and Timoth, and he starts talking about, eventually, when you're helpless, um, the owner, your owner, sees you as helpless and is disgusted by it, even though they're the cause of your helplessness. And so they start becoming more
right.
sadistic. And so then
Hmm.
you then you go back to the flashback, and you're seeing the children, the two children
Now
that,
they're starting to. They're really being brats. That's why I can put it nicely. They're being brats,
and
honestly, because they're
yeah.
abusing it too.
So they're kind of giggling to each other, and they're like, "Hey, K1, where's my drinks or whatever, right?" And then he comes, like, right afterwards. He comes with the drink. Here's the drinks you've requested, and he's like, "You took too long," and he falls to the ground. Kids start laughing, just laughing at him, and then, like,
Right.
he gets up again, and right, um, and then the brother's like, "Oh, let me try it," like, they think it's hilarious. Um,
They think it's hilarious. Yes, they do. And the poor K1 is like, you can tell, sort of like in the back of his mind, he's like, I can't deal with this. Enough is enough.
right, and so that night, um, he powers on in the middle of the night, and as soon as he powered on in the middle of the night, I mean, any historian could
Hmm.
tell you what was about to happen next, and I knew exactly what it was about
Exactly.
to happen next. He was going to kill him.
Exactly.
He was gonna,
Starting with the mother and the father,
he goes to the he goes to
especially the
the
father.
parents. Yeah, he goes to the parents' bedroom. Guy wakes up. He goes to grab the device, but he kills him with the head cannon immediately. Kills the wife.
They come out first,
Yeah, and
and then
then
you see him go into the children's room, and you see him. He doesn't even say. He just.
yeah, he just
So
quietly
yeah.
dispatches with them. And then, well, that's the
Exactly.
beginning of the rebellion, apparently.
Right. And meanwhile, the female race now has had a dinner party with Kelly, Tala, all of them, and the men are there now. They agreed to let them have the men be there, but they tell them you have to be almost subservient, so to speak.
Right. They got to be.
And
It says something like act like first year cadets or something like that.
exactly, exactly. And even Gordon's like, and no, Boris is like, it, Boris has the perfect line for this, basically saying they are awful.
That's at the end of the thing. Yeah.
But the thing is, they finally find out that the gig is up. That okay, the males and the females, they're not the way they are, the way they're depicting
So
it. That actually, no,
yeah, because what happens is, um, the woman who's sitting next to Ed looks at Ed and is like, "I like this one. I think I'll, does anybody claim this one? Because if not, I'm going to claim. I'm going to mate with this one tonight." And and like Kelly's like, uh, uh, uh right? Because like, okay, they're not together, so she can't claim him, if you know what I mean, right? But at the same
exactly.
time, it's like, and then Ed is looking at her, giving her these eyes, like,
Like, get
tell,
me out of this.
like,
Get
you,
me out of this,
like,
Kelly.
tell him what gig is up. Tell them I don't want to sleep with this woman. Just tell them what's up.
Like, cut it out, cut it out, cut it out. No
Mhm.
more.
And then so finally she breaks the uh I don't know, she
The
breaks the
charade, the
the
charade
charade, and she's
facade.
like, Actually, he's the
Yes.
captain." And then they're like,
And the
"What?"
woman's like, what?
And now they're rightfully angry because they've been lied to, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And so like they ask, "Why did you do this?" And Ed says like something like, "We thought that if we just like slowly showed you, like, instead of like, if we slowly acclimated ourselves to you, that it would be a better process," or something like that. And she's like,
Right,
"Well, like,
exactly.
yeah, you screwed it up," and then they walk out of the thing. And then that's when Bordis is like, "But they are awful people."
Yes, exactly. He calls them out for it. He said it straight up. And yeah. So Claire and Kel, let me see. Claire and Kelly talk soon after that dinner whole situation and everything because she knows about the emotional chip situation now. And
Yes,
she's like, I want Isaac to have this kind of thing, but he's rejecting it.
right. They talked
And
before,
she,
like they talked about it, and Isaac was like, I'm not thinking, I don't want to do it." And then that's when she was like, "What? Okay." And then she goes to talk to Kelly.
mm-hmm. And basically they have this heart to heart talk saying basically where if you love someone, there's things you have to change. And basically, you got to make like compromises when you're in a relationship kind of thing.
Yes, yes. And so she's like, "So if you want us to be together, do that for me." Um, because it's really difficult for her to
Mm-hmm.
love someone who doesn't reciprocate those feelings,
Exactly.
even though she knows he tries. She knows he tries. So,
Mm-hmm.
which
That
is
comes
what.
across very stoic, almost cold
Hmm.
when he
Yeah.
says that. He's not trying to. He's not trying to be that way. It's just that's
No.
just the way he is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just how he is. So yeah. So then after that, um, oh man, I lost my place.
So the negotiations are talked about again with that female race again because they finally said, okay, we own up to it. We're sorry for what we did. And Kelly makes a mention about what happened to her and Ed, that she cheated on Ed
Hmm.
with Derulio, that she was the unfaithful one because they research into that culture and they find out that these females are basically, I think that they're normally the faithful ones and that the males are the non-faithful ones, if I remember
No,
correctly.
they said. I think it was
And
the males have to be faithful, but the females can do what they want because the females are the dominant ones.
right, I think so. I think that, yeah, maybe that's what it was. But the thing is, Kelly owns up to it and says, no, I wasn't faithful to him. I cheated on him. I was wrong. He stayed faithful to me no matter what.
Hmm.
And yet he still trusted me enough to make me his first officer. He still makes me be in command with him alongside him.
Right, and he said, and
And
Ed explains, like, that he values her judgment, he values her command presence, she values, like, all this stuff about her, which she gives him a little smile for that. I notice.
yes, that was really nice and so like that. And the woman says, "You know what? We will talk about it, but when you send your ambassador, we will meet her,
Yeah,
not him, her." She makes it very clear it's a she. She wants to meet only with a
yeah,
female ambassador kind of
yeah.
thing.
She's like, if you decide to send an ambassador, we will accept her.
And so we realized, okay, you really don't want a male ambassador, but okay,
No,
whatever.
but I mean, like it opened, it gave him that doorway. It gave him a little doorway to, like,
Right,
possible peace
right,
and stuff. So
exactly. So then it skips back to Claire again, and she hears something outside her door, and she's wondering, what am I hearing? She goes outside the door, and there's a box, and it's a gift box, and it has a black bow on it, and it has
it says
her name
Claire.
on it. It
Yeah.
says- And she pulls back the tissue paper and everything, and there's basically says, meet me for dinner," kind of
Come
thing.
to dinner.
And when she, yes, and when she pulls back the tissue paper a little, oh, meanwhile, Isaac has also spoken to this woman that made Timness with the emotion and everything, that he wants to do it now because
Yeah.
Timness is, he says, I want to do
Yeah, and then you see
it.
this, and then
And
you see the gift that he gives Claire. It says, "Come to dinner," and then when she opens the box, there's a beautiful red gown in it, and then
it's gorgeous. It's
the next shot,
gorgeous.
she's walking down the halls in this full gown, beautiful, wonderful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Um,
It's a beautiful dress. It really is.
yeah,
It
really
suits her too.
look real good on her. And then she goes to the simulator, and Isaac is already there in Mark Jackson form, but now he's got facial expressions, right? He sees
Yes, and he's like,
he sees
"Hello, Claire.
Claire.
It's so good to see you."
Yeah,
And she was like, "You did it. You actually did it."
it's like, yes, I did. And he's like, how does it feel? And he's like, oh my God, Claire, like, it was so. I didn't realize it was going to be so overwhelming, uh, and wonderful and terrible, because the anticipation waiting for you. I was hungry, like, he's and he goes into this, and like, she asks him how he feels, and he goes into this entire monologue about how he like he almost kicks himself for not wanting to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, says, "Oh, I'm not going back to what I was before. This is who I am now. I love you, Claire." He kisses Claire. "I love you so much. I want to be a father to your children. I feel so bad because Ty looks at me with so much love, and I can't even give that back to him. That's going to change now. Like, he's like making all these promises and everything, right? And he's like,
Yes.
let's dance." And so they start dancing, and it's so beautiful, right? And
Yes, and
then
they have
like
this alien in the background. Yes.
he gives her a dip, and then suddenly his facial expression changes again. Uh, and Claire notices, and Claire's like, "Is everything okay, Isaac?" Isaac's like, "It's gone." She's like, "What's gone?" "My emotions, they're gone. Like, I think there's a malfunction or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
So they go back.
Yeah.
They go back to that doctor, and well, remember, Isaac was built after the Kalons uh, killed their creators and took over.
Right.
The ones that were like the orange eyes and shit, uh, they were around during this time when they had those humanoid. I don't even know what the species is called. I'll call them Kalon, biological Kalon.
Biological, right?
Yeah. So they were around when these biological Kalon had them enslaved and everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
um, because of that, they built some sort of redundancy into Isaac that fixes that undoes that within
Mm-hmm.
like a certain amount of time. And so they can get rid of it, but if they get rid of it, he loses all of his memories. And so Isaac is like, Claire, I'm going to leave it up to you. If this is one of those relationship compromises, then I'm willing to do it. But I'll leave it up to you. And then Claire's like, no, thank you, doctor, but I can't let him. You know, he'll be a different person. I don't want him to be a different person. I want him the way he is. Um,
Yes.
so so Isaac is, you know, he's now it does leave room for this. Apparently, Isaac can have emotions, but only temporarily,
Right.
and like maybe Lamar has to do some modifications for it to happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if they'll bring that back or not or whatever. But I just thought that was a pretty interesting thing to point out.
Yes.
But yeah,
Right. And Lamar.
so sadly Isaac lost his emotion, but now he and Claire I think are solid.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, not everyone is so solid.
yeah.
Lamar's been trying to make it work with Tala, but yeah, he's ending up more and more in the sick bay. He's getting worse every
At,
single time they have their sessions.
at one point, Tala actually tries to break up with Lamar, but Lamar sweet talks his way back into um, because she felt
Yes.
terrible about hurting him. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
get it. You know what I mean? Like that sucks because
Mm-hmm.
you want to give them pleasure, but instead you're giving them pain. So it's like, yeah, I could see why that's
Mm-hmm.
frustrating. And then so sadly,
Yes.
I think it's the last scene in the show in this episode, but it's kind of
Uh,
funny,
not,
kind of sad.
not not quite the last scene. This was the next to the
Okay,
last scene.
okay, next to the last. It's kind of funny, but kind of sad. Tala is
Yes.
you see Tala in bed and she's just crying. She's just crying, like
Yes.
she feels terrible, and
Mm,
she's talking to Lamar like, "I'm so sorry," like, I, but yeah, it's just too bad this is not going to work. And Lamar, you can hear him, you hear him first. It's like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work, and they start to zoom out, slowly zoom out, and eventually they reveal
and
that
he's
Lamar, oh my God, he got an ass whooping. He's got his eyes are all puffy from his cheeks are puffy like she's been punching him or something like that. Like um
yes, he's got teeth knocked out.
he spits out a bunch of
Eyes
teeth.
are.
Oh my God, like he's his chest he's got bruises all over his chest, probably some broken ribs.
He looks like he's been bleeding. Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
bad shape, folks. He's
And
in really bad
so
shape. He's
apparently
not.
so apparently after this one last time they're like, yeah, you know what, this is gonna work. I'm in too much pain.
I mean, yeah. And she's like, I'm so sorry, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's yeah. I mean, in my opinion, though, I'm sure there's I'm sure there's a safer way to have sex than
They
just
gotta
like
find a way. They gotta find a
romping
way.
around in bed. Like,
Yes.
why don't yeah, like, geez, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I mean,
hopefully, maybe Clara can find something. I don't know her research. How do Zelayans deal with non-Zelayans? I don't know.
yeah,
I don't.
I would know.
But
I wonder if
yeah,
that's.
but
I wonder if like in that comic in that alternative scene when Lamar was with um
Alara.
Laura. I wonder if like the same issues There was the same
I don't
issues.
know. Or maybe they didn't take it that far. Maybe they just teased it and they never went all the way, so to speak, if that makes any sense.
I mean, that's possible. It's just the way she was looking at him at that in that last that one episode at that one point. Yeah.
Yes. But then it skips to Charlie and goes to
Yes.
see Isaac
Yes.
sooner.
Yes. You're right. This is
So Charlie finally said, because she sees Isaac doing some diagnosis, and she says, "Do you need any assistance?" And at first she tries to reject it.
your
And then he
feeble human
realizes,
mind would be blah blah blah. Yeah.
and then he stops himself and he says, "No, that
Well,
would be fine, Lieutenant Ensign."
first she's like, well, she actually like says something to make
Apologizes. Yeah.
amends. Yeah, I don't know exactly what she said, but she says something to try to make amends, and then she like starts to walk away, and that's when Isaac was like, actually, I would like some help or something like that, and then so she comes,
Right,
they start diagnosing together or whatever, and then like that's the end of the scene. That's the end of the show.
right. But these were some powerful episodes. They really, really were. I mean, they definitely got the emotions flowing for sure.
Oh, geez, that was like, how do you, like I always wonder, like how do you write like that? It's like it's so good. Like
Oh no, it was so deep. It really was really deep, and especially the Isaac bits that he was saying to Claire.
that like
I'm
little
gonna not.
5 minute scene where he's just expressing his
That
love
was
to her.
almost yes. That
That was
sounded so familiar. I will say that.
that was crazy. Like, anyways, so
I'm
yeah,
not gonna go into too much detail about my
that was a good
personal life, but yeah, I will say
that was a good show. Those are good shows. They need to renew it. Ho-
yes,
Hope
exactly.
maybe because Comic Con is next week. Maybe they'll do it for Comic Con.
Yes, that'd be great. Where they announced saying season four. Yeah,
That'd be
hopefully,
nice.
hopefully.
That'd be nice. That'd be a nice little present.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I get to meet Tom there too.
That'd be good too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'd like to meet him. And apparently, and I will be going to a pop up movies pop up.
Hmm.
It'll be fun. Anyways,
Yes, I know you'll have. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, hopefully next Friday we will be doing it again as well for the next episode, episode 8. So yeah, we're almost finished with this season, folks. Oh my goodness. So
it's
wow.
going too fast.
Way too fast. Just like our relationship's going too fast, right?
We get like 15 episodes a season now. Come on.
At least 20.
I don't want to overwork them.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, obviously. Thought I was kidding. But yeah. But yeah. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this review, folks, between Jack and myself. We'll be back tentatively next Friday, same time. So yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, everybody, good night. Have a good night. We'll see you guys another time. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Let me put this.
All right.
Woo!
Good episode. I'll
That
be
was
right back.
nice.
I'm gonna grab some
Sound
water.
good?